Begin in Uganda, where 24 troops serving with the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia are set to appear before a court-martial over allegations of selling arms, ammunition and food rations in Somalia. Now, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni had suspended the 24 troops upon hearing the allegations. Uganda's Army Chief Katumba Wamala has expressed disappointment at the alleged theft of fuel and firearms at a time when Uganda had made remarkable strides in pacifying Somalia. Let's cross over now to Mogadishu, where CCTV's Mohammed Hirmoger is standing by. He joins us live from the capital, Mogadishu. Mohammed, how have these allegations, they are quite damning there, that the troops from Uganda have been selling weapons and firearms in Mogadishu, how have that, though, affected the way they are viewed in Somalia?
Well, this is not the first time AMISOM is on the spot on serious allegations. We understand just a few months ago, AMISOM was on the spot, especially UPDF, Ugandan forces in Maslah military base in Mogadishu, when they allegedly gang raped a Somali mother of four. After that, there were cases of food rations getting sold. And finally, the damning allegations by Uganda's Battle Group 10 that just recently left here for Uganda's capital, Kampala, who apparently, as it appears, told Yoweri Museveni, the president there, that the troops' commanders have been engaged in mega corrupt deals. The public here have not quite reacted to that so very much, basically because it's not so much in public domain at the moment. It's not something the local media is reporting, and it's not a topic that is picked on at the local FM station. So largely, this time Uganda and AMISOM is saved because the local media have not quite reacted to that so very much. Possibly, they're not even aware of this.
All right, Mohammed, though the public hasn't yet reacted to these damning allegations, but these claims against the Ugandan troops, though, they follow allegations against the Kenyan troops of taking sides in the conflict and earlier allegations of human rights abuses by the AMISOM troops. What's been the impact of all this on AMISOM's operations in Somalia?
Well, AMISOM troops have survived even worse here. We understand Mogadishu just a few years ago when Al-Shabaab were in this city, for example. There were civilian casualties involved. AMISOM was aware of that every time Al-Shabaab launches an offensive, and the AMISOM troops respond that there were civilian casualties involved. And that too, the AMISOM survived. And speaking about whether people will have confidence in them anymore, they have since compensated that with a few other good attributes of the AMISOM, like more like the night patrols at night, demining the city of all the explosive, what do they call IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and even giving them facilities like hospitals. There's an AMISOM level 2 hospital at the base's quarters in the airport. Therefore, AMISOM have survived that. They have survived the rape allegations, which until now the reports have not emerged. And the issue of selling weaponry, definitely they will survive. That's the bigger thinking here.
All right, CCTV's Mohammed Hirmoger joining us there live from Mogadishu. Thank you. Let's now head to a developing story in Madagascar, where candidates in the running for Friday's presidential poll have just one day left to win over the electorate. Campaigns have reached fever pitch as candidates make last-minute attempts to persuade the electorate. Many in Madagascar hope the Friday polls will bring to an end the political crisis that followed the 2009 coup. The coup saw Mark Ravalomanana ousted by a former disc jockey, Andre Rajoelina. This led to 4 years of political turmoil and economic isolation. Now, both were barred from contesting the election by the country's special electoral court in August. Now, as preparations gear up, Malagasy people are hoping that the polls will turn over a new page in the island's history. Now, let's get the latest on the Madagascar elections, and we're joined by CCTV's Clementine Logan live from the capital, Antananarivo. Clementine, no doubt it's been a busy day ahead for the presidential candidates. What's the latest where you are?
Well, as you said, Beatrice, it is indeed the last day of campaigning here, a carnival-like atmosphere across the city, with the final rally set to take place this afternoon. The 33 candidates in the running have had 30 days to persuade voters ahead of Friday's poll, and with 119 electoral districts up for grabs, they've been holding rallies up and down the country. Now, they're all promising to tackle Madagascar's most serious problems, which there are quite a number. 92% of the country living on less than just $2 a day, high levels of unemployment, hundreds of thousands more children out of school since the crisis began in 2009. And this is coupled with massive food shortages set to affect around 4 million people. So they've really been touching on these issues, promising to get the economy back on track and deliver on basic services like roads, water and power that are all critical to much needed long-term growth here.
Well, Clementine, quite a large number of candidates there contesting the first round, though. Are there any front-runners emerging during the campaign period?
Well, yes, around a dozen candidates with the big funds and powerful backers behind them have been leading this race so far. They've been able to get to the most remote villages in the island. They're all high-ranking officials. Several of them appear to have the backing of transitional leader Andry Rajoelina, yet although he's still not said whether he's backing one in particular. And on the other hand, we have Dr. Jean-Louis Robinson, who's backed by ousted President Marc Ravalomanana and his wife Lalau, who he's pledged to make Prime Minister if he wins. Some say that's quite premature. Nevertheless, it looks like he is definitely a front runner in this race. And one analyst I spoke to earlier on today said that it does look like a continuation of an unresolved power struggle, many wondering whether this election is simply going to mean more of the same. Earlier on, we spoke to a few people about how they felt ahead of Friday's poll, and this is what they had to say.
I'm not expecting the new president to give me a brighter future or provide a job. My hope is that everyone could have decent jobs and that the state offered help to the unemployed. Then I could survive and have some security.
If the candidates keep the promises they've made during the electoral campaign, Madagascar's future will be better than the current situation. The candidates have promised to put children in school, give everyone enough to eat and build infrastructure. The reality is different. But we will see after the election if they keep their word. If they do, Madagascar will be a paradise.
Nothing will change. I have nothing to do and just get by with odd jobs. I have nothing to do all day. The election won't impact my life and I don't believe anything will change.
Right, it's been 4 years, though, of political turmoil there in Madagascar. Clementine, are there any concerns, though, ahead of the poll and whether it can deliver a credible outcome?
Well, actually, just last week, Andry Rajoelina did hold an emergency meeting over concerns about the delayed distribution of ballots. Others I've spoken to have said that there simply aren't enough voting booths and that they think this will create long lines, perhaps meaning some people are unable to even cast their vote. Nevertheless, there have been plenty of measures put in place with thousands of national observers and up to 700 from international bodies like SADC, the EU, AU and UN deployed across the country. And while the AU did say just yesterday that there were still some concerns over security in parts of the country, it also said that measures put in place up until this point by the Independent Electoral Commission and other bodies were sufficient to deliver a credible outcome.
All right, CCTV's Clementine Logan joining us there from Antananarivo, the capital of Madagascar, and following all the developments there of the election for us. Thank you. We'll take a short break here on Africa Live, but coming up, triumph over child mortality, why African countries are recording impressive progress. We follow the latest trends in global politics, economics, culture and sport, and how Africa fits into the global picture. You decide what's important.
We need to trade justice. Africa's future will be determined by Africa.
For women's equal opportunity, for a better life.
We have to change something, and it's not the outsiders.
Talk Africa, a new voice for the world. For watching Africa Live in Nairobi, I'm Beatrice Marshall. Now, developing countries are making dramatic progress in preventing deaths in children under 5. A new report by the charity Save the Children says the number of child deaths worldwide has been cut by half in one generation, with Niger topping the list. CCTV's Maria Galang with this report.
Niger is one of the world's poorest countries, but it leads the developing world in tackling child deaths. According to a new report released by the charity Save the Children on Wednesday, Niger has cut the number of under-5s dying by nearly 2/3 since 1990. Liberia, a country suffering the effects of civil war, comes second, while war-torn Democratic Republic of the Congo and Haiti, still bearing the scars of the devastating 2010 earthquake, were languishing at the bottom of the list.
What do we need to do now to sustain progress, make the progress go faster? And so we looked across 75 different countries and we looked at the reduction being made. Is it sustainable and is it equal across all areas?
Access to healthcare, nutrition programs and sustainability across all areas of society contributed to the improvement.
Countries that are ranking higher on the index, interestingly, are a country like Niger, where they've reduced mortality, but they're doing it across the whole country. So they're providing free services to pregnant women and children for all of the population.
The charity said that 4 million lives could have been saved if government efforts had focused equally on the poorest children. It doesn't all boil down to how much money is spent, but more how a country chooses to spend it. The campaign is one of motivation and encouragement for countries to make that one final push to eliminate cases of children dying unnecessarily for good. Maria Galang, CCTV.
Well, let's get now more on that developing story there. We're joined by Save the Children's Country Director, Mr. Steve Duncan Harvey. Welcome to the program this afternoon. Now, quite some good news there coming out of Africa on the children's situation there. What's contributed to that success?
Well, you're right. I think we should be celebrating the success. Since 1990 until now, we've seen a huge reduction in the numbers of children dying globally. We had 12 million children dying per year back in 1990. Now the figure for 2013 is 6.6 million children. So reductions have been made. Some countries have had greater success than others, but really it's low cost interventions, things like better nutritional care, making sure that trained health workers are available to pregnant mothers at the time of delivery, greater access to antibiotics and vaccines, very simple low cost interventions, which is why we're seeing so many developing nations making rapid progress on reducing the numbers of children that are dying in their countries. All
right. A lot of countries have made rapid progress there, but Niger is standing out among the pack in Africa. Why?
Well, Niger stands out in this particular report that we've released today because the progress that's been made has really been very equitable. They've been not just targeting, not just reducing the numbers of deaths of children in well-off parts of the country, but they've been addressing the inequalities across the country, making sure that children who are living in poverty and marginalised circumstances are also benefiting, and so the reductions that have been achieved are across the board. So yes, I know in many ways seeing Niger top of the list may raise a few eyebrows, but we're also seeing that countries like Tanzania, like Ethiopia, have already achieved their Millennium Development Goal 4 target of reducing the numbers of children under 5 dying by 2/3 compared to the 1990 target. There are a number of other countries that are also celebrating that success already before the target date of 2015, right, and many other countries that are also on track to achieve that by 2015.
But is this all, though, being felt on the ground, though? I mean, that's the question that needs to be asked. It could look good on paper, but is it being felt on the ground?
I think it is being felt on the ground. Save the Children works in 120 countries around the world. Here in Kenya, we're working in some of the most marginalised parts of the country, the northeast, where the rates of child mortality are the highest in the country. We're working together with health workers, with the Ministry of Health on the ground, with county governments, and we're seeing rapid change. We know that it's, as I said, it's low-cost interventions that make a real difference. It is possible. We have great examples from all around the world as to how it's possible to reduce those mortality rates, and it's achievable in every context.
Well, Niger is topping the pack, but there are countries with strong economic prospects like Kenya are said to be lagging behind. Why is this though?
And not just Kenya. I think we're seeing across the board that it's countries that really make the investments in improving the supply of health workers across the country, the supply of vaccines, antibiotics, as I said, have a key role to play. Also it comes down to political will, and in this report we're talking about the importance of governments really making a high commitment in their policies and their practices to address the issue of child mortality, and reflecting that in their budgets as well. And so Kenya has made progress, and I think in the last 10 years has made more rapid progress than it had previously. The government, since it came into power in March, has already introduced a number of initiatives which are going to help to accelerate progress, such as the free maternity services, the provision of the pneumococcal vaccine, and the training of health workers. All those things have taken place as good initiatives, positive initiatives that we think will help to accelerate progress in Kenya in the next 12 months.
Mr. Duncan Harvey, the Save the Children's Country Director, joining us here. Thank you very much for your insights. Now, let's get on to other stories that are making the headlines for us at this hour. Trains are running again in Egypt following a 2-month shutdown. Officials suspended the service when it was threatened by supporters of ousted President Mohamed Morsi. And now it's back, but security has been beefed up. CCTV's Adel Mahroui tells us more.
One of the largest train stations in the world is here in Cairo. Yet, this is the first train to arrive to Egypt's capital in 2 months. The protests that followed Mohamed Morsi's ousting routinely paralyzed the network. But now the Interior Ministry says Egypt is safer.
The resumption of operations is extremely important, and we did not take this decision except when we made sure we can implement the security plans provided from the ministry.
For the first time in its history, Cairo's train station has luggage scanners and operating metal detectors. Only 6 trains were scheduled on Tuesday. The number will gradually increase until the regular schedule is restored.
We are extremely happy. Everyone is happy. It's like a feast. This is the life vein of Egypt's transportation system. When it froze, everyone was tired.
Employees are rejoicing. Their little monthly income was never sufficient. They mainly lived on tips from passengers.
Financially, I was stumbling. I worked everywhere and anything. I sold napkins, soft drinks. I'm now happy that the police interfered. I'm looking forward to having more passengers.
The trains currently are running only to northern cities. Security forces have still to restore order in Morsi strongholds in the south, so the trains there remain suspended.
We want to show that there is security in Egypt. It is starting to get restored. We want to move forward and welcome back foreigners here.
It's a small beginning for Egypt's railroad network, but for the employees, it's a big step, and they are celebrating that life is moving on. Adel Mahroui on a train leaving Cairo.
And from Cairo, we'll take a short break here, but it's time now for the business news with Ramanyang. Rama.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. Here's what's coming up on Biz Africa.